Mr. Dog Poop here with some bad news for Glide Gear. Your Dev Dolly sucks. It's actually a complete piece of trash. Now you may have already guessed this, but this video is absolutely not sponsored by Glide Gear. If anyone is considering buying a Glide Gear slider, a Glide Gear Dolly, or a set of these Glide Gear wheels, you need to really watch this entire video before you make the same stupid mistake that I made. I bought this dolly about a year ago and have not used it until now. It looked really good. I figured this was taking me from those small 3 and 4 foot sliders to a more professional level. I can put 8 feet of track and run this thing across. How could I go wrong when there are literally thousands of professionals on YouTube giving this product and other Glide Gear products such amazing reviews? Well, I'm not sure what product they were looking at, but it sure was not the one I got. Since I bought this last year, Glide Gear did improve these crappy track holders, which only proves my point that the system sucked and needed improvement. So let me talk about the pros and cons. First, the pros. It's inexpensive, only $250. And yep, that's really about it. It's cheap. Now the cons. It's very narrow, almost 4 inches less than the more popular Dana Dolly. So rigs can tip or fall over. There's no anti-tip attachment or safety cable. And I don't understand why it only has one set of wheels on one side. This thing is super narrow, has no stability, and it takes a huge amount of pressure to push it on the track. Now, you might say, hey, that doesn't look like a lot of pressure, but we went ahead and replaced all the bearings in here and did some work on it to make it work a little bit better, but it's still a piece of crap. Right here, I'm holding these 2 wheels on the ends because they're not even connecting to the track. The track holders are garbage, and mounting options are limited. Not easily attached to a stand without a grip head and some studs. Of course, if you do mount it on stands, you risk damage to your equipment because the holders just snap in and out. So even if you had anti-tip or a safety device, there's nothing keeping the track in place. There's really no good way to mount these, so what do they suggest? They suggest putting it on Apple boxes. So this is their suggestion, put it on a couple Apple boxes. Yeah, that's gonna work. You're gonna put your camera on top of this with no way to support it, no way to keep it from tipping off on this stupid thing. So I figured a good way to rig this up. Some 5/8 baby pins with 3/8 inch threads. Stick them in the bottom. We can put it in a grip head. Mind you, I planned on using 8 feet of track, but I would be even more afraid to use 8 feet of track. I don't know about you guys, but I don't even trust my beer on this, let alone a $10,000 or $20,000 camera rig. If you put anything over this, it is so narrow and so small, if you apply any pressure, it just tips over. Any pressure. This thing is so unstable, it has no way to keep it from tipping over or falling out. These could pop out at any time. There's nothing to keep them in. I guess you could duct tape them in or something. But this doesn't even move. Yeah, it's ugly. I can hold these 2 wheels because they don't even contact the track. None of the wheels, none of these casters have all 4 wheels contacting the track. None of them. And then sometimes one does and sometimes another one does. This thing is such a piece of crap. And anyone that says different is full of shit. This is complete garbage. Of course, we never planned on using this crap. I had my maintenance man make some legitimate holders. So let me get that set up and show you how that works. Now that's what I'm talking about. Some good long rails, heavy duty, but it doesn't help this piece of garbage. This would have been great. This would have been a great video talking about how amazing this is, and all I had to do was make a couple connectors and put some speed rail in place, and instead, I realized that this thing is absolute crap. If you look at the wheels really closely, not all the wheels turn, they squeak, and this should be effortlessly moving across the track. Clearly, it doesn't. Now, I've got this nice stand that we set up. Problem is, I can't use it because everything else is wider. This thing is useless. It is completely useless. You cannot use this thing. You can't even put a beer on it and send it down to the other end of the bar because it won't make it. This is the biggest piece of garbage that I've ever purchased. You'll see as we push the dolly along, the wheels aren't straight, they're wobbling. Somebody suggested putting olive oil on the tracks. That's what I want to do. Cover the tracks with olive oil and then go work with my equipment. It defies me how anyone could have given this a good review. There isn't one good thing I can say about it. So here's skate wheels from a 40-year-old Los Mandy dolly. This thing is smooth. All the wheels are turning, and it's relatively quiet. This thing weighs maybe 20 pounds compared to these. These don't move. This thing just effortlessly flows. So I took the skates for our Los Mandy dolly and I connected them with a Macalini or Cardellini clamp so that, now you can see this thing is just going in one direction because this isn't level. Is this moving? You can't even get this one to move. This feels good. I might actually make this into a Dana dolly. This is really nice. And these wheels are beat up. Some of them aren't contacting. Some of the bearings are actually seized up, so they're not working properly. Let me explain why it's so bad. It all comes down to the manufacturing process. These Glide Gear wheels are complete garbage. The reason is they fabricate them instead of machining them. These wheels are machined, these wheels are fabricated. The wheels aren't fabricated, the holder's fabricated. So they take a flat piece of metal, they stamp it out, punch a bunch of holes in it, bend it, and then weld it all together. Well, punching is not accurate. It leaves a big hole, and if you bend it, you've now bent it, there's no chance that you're going to get the same accuracy from bending a piece of metal as machining the holes in place. So what do? They put a slot on there to take up the sloppiness, right? And then they put a bearing. And it's a pretty nice thrust bearing, and that bearing will turn. Except you need a bearing on both sides. You need a bearing on this side and a bearing on this side so that it can turn. Can you imagine if your car had only a wheel bearing on one side of the wheel and on the other side it was just metal on metal? That wouldn't last very long. That's what they've done. So I don't understand what their thinking is. You could certainly get longer bolts and more bearings. And why should you have to fix something that's brand new? Why do they do it this way? Because it's a fraction of the cost. Cheaper materials means you can sell to a lower end market. The problem is, it's a lower end product. Machining is expensive, takes time, and requires better materials like aircraft aluminum, while fabricating out of cheap recycled steel is, well, cheap. I'm not sure how anyone could give this a thumbs up. There is literally not one good thing I can say about it. I'm also confused how Glide Gear is so popular and still in business with a shitty product like this. But then again, I'm probably a little more angry than most people because I wasted a full day watching my maintenance man making these track holders and trying to make the slider work while I yelled at it. But in the end, I realized it was not his fault. There's no way to make these wheels right. And that particularly sucks for me because I purchased 8 boxes of these wheels for $250 to put them on my doorway dolly. That was a complete waste of money. And these wheels, they're going in the trash. So here's my tally. I spent $250 on the Dev Dolly kit. I purchased additional track for $200. I purchased 8 of these wheel sets for another $250. And the time and money making better track supports, add all that in, I burned close to $1,000 and I literally have nothing to show for it. For that money, I could have just purchased a Dana Dolly and I would have been using it and making a great review video instead of bitching about this Glide Gear garbage. Don't make the same mistake. Learn from my mistakes. Just keep away from Glide Gear products. Don't get me wrong. They do have some good products. However, they also have the Dev 10 Pro unit for $500 that uses the exact same wheels just because it's bigger with a hard case and a bunch of adapters. How is that going to fix the wheels that don't work? It won't. So buying it would be a complete waste of your money. And it's really not much cheaper than the Dana Dolly or other professional slider dollies. So spend a couple extra bucks now before it's too late. Or end up like Mr. Dogpoop, out of money, out of patience, and almost out of beer. The Dana Dolly